Hello and welcome. My name is Augustin Popa, and I'm a program manager on the Microsoft Visual C++ team. Today I'm going to talk to you about changes to the productivity experience for C++ developers in Visual Studio 2017. In Visual Studio 2017, we made a number of improvements to the code editing and navigation experience. In this video, I will go over three features that have been updated: IntelliSense, Find All References, and GoTo, which was previously known as Navigate To in Visual Studio 2015. One of our priorities was to make IntelliSense smarter and more malleable to your needs. This is why we introduced an experimental feature called Predictive IntelliSense, as well as some IntelliSense type filters. The goal here is to give you a narrower list of results that is more tailored to what you are looking for, so you have less typing or scrolling to worry about. We also received a lot of feedback on Find All References. To make your experience using this feature even better, we now incrementally populate the list so you can start interacting with results faster. We also added a number of new columns, including a column that tells you if an entry is a read or a write. To make it easier to manage a large list of results, you can now group entries or sort or filter columns based on your desired specifications. Next, we made some changes to our Navigate To feature, which we now call GoTo. You can now filter results based on certain specifications and scope them to your solution, your current document, or your solution as well as any external dependencies. The interface has also shifted a bit to be more user-friendly. To better illustrate how these features have changed, let's take a look at some actual code in Visual Studio. All right, so we pulled up a solution in Visual Studio, and we're going to start by demoing the Predictive IntelliSense feature. So here I have a fairly large solution with quite a few files. And what I've done here is I've created two variables. I have an int called size of buffer, and I have a double called size of banner. And now let's say that I want to create a new int, and I want to initialize it to size of buffer. So the old way of doing this, you start typing, and you can see as I start to type, it's slowly narrowing down the list. But you can see here that I have to type in quite a few characters before it finally selects exactly the variable that I was looking for. So the reason for this is because there's just a lot of possible results, and it really just relies on text matching based on whatever you type in to actually narrow down your list of results. So this isn't exactly ideal. So what we did basically is we set up this Predictive IntelliSense system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invoke Quick Launch with Control-Q, or you can just go up here, and I'm going to search for experimental. And this will bring me to the Tools Options experimental page under the C++ section in Text Editor. And you can see here that we have Enable Predictive IntelliSense. Now previously we had enable change signature and extract function in here as well. Those are just on by default now, so you won't see them in here, but instead you'll see these two options. And right now we're just going to enable Predictive IntelliSense. So what will this actually do? Let's see. So let's restart that whole scenario. If I start to type, you'll notice this list looks a bit smaller than it used to. And you can see that it's already narrowing down on the result that I want. And the reason for this is because Predictive IntelliSense is essentially trying to guess the most likely values that you actually want to type based on, it's basically context aware. It's not just looking at the text you've typed, but it's trying to figure out, well, are you likely, for example, to want size of banner, which is a double? Probably not. So it just excludes it from the list. And this way, you get a much narrower list of results. And this can be really useful when you're dealing with these large projects. Now, in case you don't like these results and you do want to go back to the larger list, you can press this button here, which shows more results. And there you go. This goes back to the list that we had before. So you can always exit out of it in case Predictive IntelliSense isn't giving you what you want. But the idea here is that most of the time it should. Now, it is an experimental feature. It's a work in progress. And we're certainly interested in your feedback on how it works and if you have any suggestions for improvement. Now, another thing you can actually do is you can see here, I actually have a number of buttons here. And these actually let me filter down the results based on different kinds. So for example, here I can filter down to just see functions if I don't want to see anything else, or just see macros, for example, and functions. In this case, I can just take off functions, and then it's just macros. So this is just another way of really narrowing down that list of results. Now, let's take a look at another feature, and this feature is our overhauled find all references. So if you actually just, if I just, actually let's just leave this completed. So if I say, I just let this autocomplete, there we go. And I do a find all references on this size of buffer here. So it's only going to give me 2 results. Because I only have 2 references to it. So you can see here where I declare it and then where I actually use it to initialize my int. And you can see here that the UI looks a bit different. So we added a number of different columns. We are tracking the line and the column number here. You can see the project, and you can see whether the entry is a read or a write, or if it's just something that isn't a read or a write, which we just kind of classify as other. So in this case, I have one that is a read and I have one that is a write. Another thing you can actually do is you can actually filter by different columns. So I can say I only want to see the write. So I'm just going to filter out the read. So you can do that. You have that option. You can do that for different columns. So for example, I can also go to this column, which has confirmed or unconfirmed results. And actually, if I demonstrate that here, if I go up to say this value here, and I run find all references again, this will give me a few more results. And you can see this has a few different types of results, including some comments that happen to have that string. So if I don't want to see the comments, I can actually just uncheck that, and this will only show me confirmed references for that value. So this just gives you a lot more flexibility. You can also sort columns, so I can sort by column number, for example, or by project. Or by whatever you want, really. So you have that option. And you also have the option to group the results in different ways. I can group by project and definition, or by definition only, or definition and project, and so on. So you have a lot of different options available now to actually manage your list of results, which can be really useful when you have a really long list. And the other thing I wanted to point out is this list incrementally populates. So if you're loading a really long list, you should start seeing results quickly and be able to interact with them rather than having to wait a really long time for everything to finish. So this is a very useful thing when you're running a particularly long operation. Now the last feature I wanted to demonstrate was the new go-to experience. Now this was previously known as navigate to. You can press Control comma, which brings up this drop down here. And you can actually search for different things. So if I start searching, for example, for reset, it'll look for it'll search my code base basically for identifiers with this name, with reset. And there's quite a few of them, but you can see here I can actually filter down to different kinds of results. So if I want to just see files, I can just see files. Now in this case, I don't have any files that start like that, but if I look for, say, CM, I know that I'll find a bunch of files that start with CM or contain CM somewhere in them. But this is basically giving you the option to really narrow down what you're looking for. So I can look, so you can look for types, you can look for members, for symbols, and for files. So these are just different ways of narrowing things down. I notice if I don't have anything typed in here, it says type ? To get help, and this will bring this drop down up. And what this does is this is just another way of filtering things down. So I can just type F spacebar, and this is automatically invoking the file filter, and then I can actually look up files based on that. So this is just another way of really activating these filters. Now you can also choose to limit something to just the current document. So if I search for reset and I limit it to just the current document, it will really narrow down the results here because there aren't that many references to reset just in this document. But you can also expand this to not just be, rather than being your current document, it can be your whole solution and external dependencies. This was an option we had before as a checkbox. Now it's this button. So you can do that as well, which will give you even more results if you need them. Now, previously we had a drop down. When you press this drop down, it gave you kind of the history of what you searched for, as well as some settings. Now the settings are under this gear icon here, as you can see. And the other thing I wanted to show was, because we kind of changed this whole idea, now navigate to is go to. Well, we used to have a feature called go to, which was basically go to line number. So now we're calling it go to line number. And you can still press Control G, as you did before, and actually go to a specific line number. And this is all the same. The UI looks a bit different, but the actual actions that you take are all the same. And lastly, I just want to show you, if I go to Edit and Go To, you can actually just see the different go-tos. You can go directly to, you can directly activate the file filter, for example. If I click Go to File, it'll automatically activate this, and then I can type in whatever I want to type in. So these are just different ways of invoking these different go-to options. And of course, they all have keyboard shortcuts as well, so that's yet another entry point. And this about covers it. So overall, we have worked on the code editing and code navigation experience. We've worked on IntelliSense, and we've made some big changes to final references in GoTo. And this is what you can expect in Visual Studio 2017. I hope you liked the demo. Before we conclude, be sure to check out the Visual C++ blog at blogs.msdn.com/vcblog for more information on what's new from the Visual C++ team in Visual Studio 2017. And if you have any questions or feedback to share, feel free to leave a blog comment. We hope you enjoy Visual Studio 2017.